The concept of a unified inner perspective is central to debates about consciousness and the nature of reality. Both Bernardo Kastrup and Michael Levin address this idea, but they do so from fundamentally different philosophical frameworks, Kastrup from idealism and Levin from physicalism. Below is a detailed exploration of how each philosopher approaches the notion of a unified inner perspective, their arguments, and their critiques of each other's positions. The term unified inner perspective refers to the coherent, first-person experience of consciousness, the sense of being a single, integrated self with a continuous stream of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. Here are some synonyms and related terms that capture different aspects of this concept. Contextual usage. In philosophy of mind, terms like phenomenal unity or unity of consciousness are often used to describe the unified inner perspective. In psychology, terms like sense of self or self-awareness are more common. In everyday language, phrases like inner experience or stream of consciousness might be more accessible. Each synonym or related term emphasizes a slightly different aspect of the unified inner perspective, so the choice of term depends on the context and the specific nuance you want to convey. 1. Bernardo Kastrup, the unified inner perspective in idealism. Kastrup's view. Kastrup argues that consciousness is the fundamental substrate of reality. From this perspective, the unified inner perspective is not an emergent property but the very essence of existence. He posits that individual conscious minds, like yours or mine, are dissociated alters of a universal consciousness, which he calls the mind at large. In this framework, the apparent multiplicity of perspectives arises from the fragmentation or dissociation of this universal consciousness. The unified inner perspective of an individual is a localized, limited expression of the mind at large. Kastrup uses the analogy of dissociative identity disorder, DID, to explain how a single, unified consciousness can give rise to multiple, seemingly independent perspectives. Just as a person with DID has multiple distinct personalities, the mind at large has countless dissociated alters, individual minds, that experience their own inner perspectives. Key arguments. Primacy of consciousness. Kastrup argues that the unified inner perspective is irreducible and cannot be explained by physical processes. Instead, it is the foundational reality from which all else emerges. Unity of experience. He emphasizes that our inner perspective feels unified and coherent, which aligns with the idea of a single, underlying consciousness. Critique of physicalism. Kastrup contends that physicalism cannot account for the qualitative, subjective nature of the unified inner perspective, the hard problem of consciousness. Implications. If Kastrup's view is correct, the unified inner perspective is not an illusion or emergent phenomenon but a direct reflection of the fundamental nature of reality. This perspective challenges the materialist assumption that consciousness arises from physical processes and instead suggests that the physical world is a representation of deeper mental activity. 2. Michael Levin, the unified inner perspective in physicalism. Levin's view. Levin, as a physicalist, argues that the unified inner perspective is an emergent property of complex physical systems, particularly the brain. He acknowledges the hard problem of consciousness, how and why physical processes give rise to subjective experience, but maintains that physicalism provides the best framework for understanding it. Levin suggests that the unity of consciousness is a result of the brain's integrative processes, which combine sensory inputs, memories, and cognitive functions into a coherent, first-person perspective. Key arguments. Emergence. Levin argues that the unified inner perspective emerges from the interactions of neurons and other physical components of the brain. He draws on neuroscience to explain how the brain integrates information to create a seamless sense of self and experience. Naturalism. Levin emphasizes that physicalism aligns with the natural sciences, which have successfully explained many phenomena in terms of physical processes. He suggests that future scientific advancements may bridge the explanatory gap between physical processes and conscious experience. Critique of idealism. Levin critiques idealism for being speculative and lacking empirical support. He questions how idealism can account for the regularity and predictability of the physical world if it is merely a manifestation of consciousness. Implications. If Levin's view is correct, The unified inner perspective is a byproduct of the brain's complexity and organization, not a fundamental feature of reality. This perspective aligns with the scientific endeavor to explain consciousness in terms of physical processes, though it acknowledges the challenges posed by the hard problem.